Little House on the Prairie was a dream stitched in sunlight, a place where love, family, and faith always found a way. But when the lights faded and the cameras stopped, real life told a very different story. Behind those familiar faces were quiet sorrows, hidden illnesses, and fates more painful than any script could write. One by one, they slipped away, some at the height of youth, others after long and silent battles. This isn't just nostalgia, it's remembrance, a tribute to 26 souls who gave us comfort, even as their own stories unraveled in silence. Like and comment if their stories still live in your heart. Michael Landon played Charles Ingalls, the steady, compassionate father who held his family together with quiet strength and unwavering love. From the very first episode, Charles wasn't just the head of the Ingalls family, he was the beating heart of Little House on the Prairie, and Michael Landon brought him to life with a sincerity that felt deeply personal. He was 38 when he took on the role in 1974. But Landon wasn't just acting, he was building something. As executive producer, head writer, and director, he shaped the soul of the show. Every warm moment, every painful goodbye, every hard-earned lesson, his fingerprints were on it all. He didn't just tell stories, he made you feel like you were part of the family. But in the spring of 1991, reality dealt a brutal blow. Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, the kind that moves fast, strikes hard, and leaves no time to prepare. Just 3 months later, on July 1st, he was gone, only 54 years old. The news hit like a punch to the chest. How could someone so vibrant, so full of life, be taken so quickly? Friends said he kept smiling, even when his body failed him. In his final days, he held his children's hands and whispered encouragements, refusing to let pain have the last word. One friend recalled how just days before passing, Landon looked out a hospital window and said softly, "Tell them I'm not afraid." His death wasn't just a loss, it felt like television itself had lost its conscience. For millions of fans, it was like losing a father figure, a friend, a voice that once comforted them in the dark. And yet, Michael Landon's light didn't go out. It echoes through every rerun, every heartfelt scene, and every young viewer who found hope in Charles Ingalls' eyes. More than an actor, Landon was a storyteller, a protector of values, a creator of meaning in a world that often forgets what matters. The Prairie is quiet now, but the man who once walked it barefoot with a hammer in hand and love in his heart still lives in the memories of those who watched him and believed. Katherine MacGregor played Harriet Olson, the sharp-tongued high society storekeeper who brought chaos and color to Walnut Grove. From the moment she strutted onto the screen in 1974, audiences didn't just notice her, they couldn't forget her. Harriet wasn't your typical small-town gossip. Thanks to Katherine's masterful touch, she became television's favorite villain, loud, dramatic, maddeningly snobby, yet somehow irresistible. MacGregor infused Harriet with biting wit and over-the-top flair, but beneath the pearls and judgmental glares she revealed just enough vulnerability to make you wonder, was Harriet really all bad? That delicate balance made her unforgettable. She wasn't just there for laughs, she gave the show texture, tension, and theater. Katherine MacGregor turned what could have been a one-note antagonist into a legendary character who's still quoted and mimicked to this day. She passed away quietly on November 13, 2018, at the age of 93. There were no breaking news alerts, no trending hashtags. But for fans, it was a gutting silence, the kind that hits when a voice you've known your whole life suddenly goes quiet. Her death marked the end of an era, not just for Little House, but for a kind of performance we don't see much anymore. MacGregor came from the world of stage, and she brought that bold, deliberate energy to every scene. Her timing, her expressions, her full-body commitment. It all reminded us what real character acting looks like. Katherine didn't chase fame. She didn't appear at fan conventions or on late-night interviews. She let Harriet speak for her, and what a voice it was. Each entrance was a performance, every glare a punchline, and every meltdown iconic. She left behind no children, no tabloid headlines, just decades of laughter, exasperation, and applause, and that's more than enough. Richard Bull played Nels Olson, the ever-patient husband whose quiet strength balanced out the firestorm that was Harriet. He joined Little House on the Prairie in 1974 at the age of 49, and over the next decade, his calm, kind demeanor became one of the show's most endearing contrasts. While Harriet was loud and dramatic, Nels was the still point, offering warmth, subtle humor, and quiet integrity. And truthfully, that wasn't just the character, it was Richard Bull himself. Born on June 26, 1924 in Zion, Illinois, Bull never set out to be an actor. In fact, he initially wanted to study music. But a casual suggestion from a friend nudged him toward the Goodman School of Drama. That friend quit after 2 weeks. Bull? He stayed and built a career that would span more than 100 roles. Beyond Little House, he was known for his work in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, where he played Doc, and for dozens of TV shows and films from the 60s through the 90s. But unlike many stars of his time, Richard Bull kept his life simple and his heart grounded. He married actress Barbara Collentine in 1948, and they remained together for 66 years. No scandals, no headlines, just a love that quietly endured, something rare in Hollywood. In 1994, the couple left Los Angeles and returned to Chicago for a slower pace, and by 2012, when health became more difficult, they moved into the Motion Picture and Television Fund home in Calabasas, a community for retired actors and crew. It was there, on February 3, 2014, that Richard Bull passed away from pneumonia. He was 89 years old. His passing didn't spark breaking news or trending hashtags, but for fans who knew the gentle power of Nels Olson, it felt personal. His net worth was estimated at $1 million, not flashy, but earned with quiet grace over a lifetime in the arts. Richard Bull never needed the spotlight. He simply showed up, did his work with heart, and left behind a legacy of steadiness, humility, and warmth that still lingers in every rerun. Kevin Hagen played Dr. Hiram Baker, the gentle town physician whose calm voice and kind eyes became a source of comfort for everyone in Walnut Grove. At 46 years old, he stepped into the role in 1974, and over the years turned doctor. Baker into one of the show's quiet heroes. Hagen's portrayal was never flashy, but that was the beauty of it. He radiated a steady warmth, the kind that made viewers feel safe, like everything would be okay. It was this quiet strength that made Dr. Baker such a beloved presence. But in 2005, tragedy struck. Kevin Hagen passed away on July 9th after a cruel and exhausting battle with esophageal cancer. He was 77. The disease didn't just wear him down, it slowly stole his voice, his strength, and eventually his body. Esophageal cancer is relentless, and Kevin felt every bit of its toll. But even as the illness ravaged him, he refused to let it define who he was. Friends and family recall how he carried himself with quiet dignity to the very end, just like Dr. Baker would have. His final days were far from the spotlight, but for fans, his absence was deeply felt. We didn't just lose a character, we lost a man who brought heart, healing, and humanity to television. Though Hagen appeared in many shows throughout his career, it was Dr. Baker who left the deepest mark, a role remembered not for drama, but for grace. Karl Swenson played Lars Hansen, the wise, kind-hearted founder of Walnut Grove, a man whose quiet strength and moral compass helped shape the town's soul. When he first appeared in 1974 at the age of 64, it didn't take long for audiences to feel the deep-rooted integrity he brought to every scene. He wasn't a flashy character. He didn't give big speeches or command attention, but when Lars Hansen spoke, everyone listened. Swenson gave the role a rare dignity, blending authority with humility, and became the emotional anchor of the early seasons. But fate can be cruel. On October 8, 1978, Karl Swenson passed away from a heart attack. He was 70. And here's what makes it all the more haunting. His final episode had just aired, the one where Lars Hansen dies on screen and is buried by the townspeople. Fans watched that funeral, not knowing it was heartbreakingly real. The line between fiction and life had blurred, and what was meant to be a farewell to a character turned into a silent goodbye to the man behind him. Off-screen, Karl was a seasoned actor with a rich career in film, radio, and television. But it was Little House that gave him one of his most enduring roles, a role that, in an eerie twist of fate, became his last. He didn't just build Walnut Grove, he built its spirit. And when he left, a piece of that spirit went with him. Steve Tracy played Percival Dalton, the patient, kind-hearted husband who brought out a softer side in Nellie Oleson, a transformation fans never saw coming. At just 24 years old, Steve turned what could have been a side character into the heart of one of the show's most touching love stories. But while his character found redemption and love on screen, Steve's real-life story would take a far more devastating turn. On November the 27th, 1986, the world lost him at just 34 years old, a vibrant talent stolen by complications from AIDS. It was the 1980s. Fear and stigma were everywhere. AIDS didn't just take your health, it took your dignity. For many, it meant being abandoned, misunderstood, erased. But not Steve. He faced it all with quiet strength, refusing to let shame or silence define him. He kept working, kept smiling, kept showing up, even as his body grew weaker. Friends say he never asked for pity. All he ever wanted was truth, compassion, and to keep doing what he loved. His death wasn't just tragic because of his age. It was tragic because the world never got to see all he was capable of. Even today, his portrayal of Percival Dalton is remembered not just as a role, but as a moment of growth, love, and tenderness in a show filled with lessons. Steve's legacy isn't in how long he was with us, it's in how deeply he made us feel and how bravely he chose to live. Shannen Doherty played Jenny Wilder, the brave and spirited niece of Laura and Almanzo. She was just 11 when she joined Little House on the Prairie in 1982, but even at that young age, her talent was undeniable. Jenny wasn't just another child on the Prairie. She was fierce, curious, and full of heart, much like Shannen herself. That role would mark the beginning of a career that soared. From Beverly Hills 9021 to Charmed, Shannen became a pop culture icon, bold, magnetic, and unafraid to speak her mind. But behind the spotlight, she would face a battle that no script could prepare her for. In 2015, Shannen was diagnosed with breast cancer. It wasn't just a medical condition, it became a relentless war. She fought through mastectomy, chemotherapy, and radiation, and when it returned, this time spreading to her brain, she kept fighting. Even as her body weakened, she shared everything publicly: the pain, the fear, the hope. Every photo without hair, every hospital video, it wasn't for sympathy. It was a call for strength, awareness, and connection. On July 13, 2024, after nearly a decade of battling cancer, Shannen Doherty passed away at the age of 53. Her death was more than just the loss of a star. It felt personal. Because Shannen didn't hide behind fame, she led us into her pain, her fire, her truth. She gave a voice to those quietly suffering and showed the world what bravery really looks like. Her roles made her famous, but her fight made her unforgettable. Melissa Sue Anderson played Mary Ingalls, the eldest daughter of the Ingalls family, gentle, composed, and full of promise. She joined Little House on the Prairie in 1974 when she was only 11 years old, but it didn't take long before her character was swept into one of the series' most gut-wrenching tragedies. When Mary lost her sight, it wasn't just a plot twist, it was an emotional avalanche. Audiences watched, helpless as this bright young girl crumbled under the weight of a future she could no longer see. The moment she realized her world would never look the same again was haunting. You could see it in her stillness, the kind of silence that screams louder than any line. Anderson carried that story arc with devastating grace. She didn't just act blindness, she embodied the heartbreak, the confusion, the crushed spirit fighting to rise. Her performance was raw and unflinching, turning Mary's pain into something painfully real. It wasn't melodrama, it was survival. To this day, those scenes are burned into the memories of millions. Viewers didn't just feel for Mary, they broke with her and healed with her. Melissa's work in those moments didn't just support the show, it became its emotional core. Off-screen, she was nothing like the spotlight-chasing stereotype. Anderson stepped back from fame, choosing a quieter life where family mattered more than flashbulbs. Now 62, she acts on her own terms, quietly, intentionally, and always with depth. But to generations of fans, she'll always be Mary, the girl who went blind, fell apart, and still found her strength in the dark. A performance that didn't just move people, it marked them. Jason Bateman played James Cooper Ingalls, the soft-spoken, wide-eyed boy who joined the Ingalls family late in the series. He was just 11 when he stepped onto the set of Little House on the Prairie in 1981, quiet, curious, and still unaware that he was stepping into a spotlight that would follow him for the rest of his life. Behind those innocent eyes was a child actor carrying a heavy burden, the pressure to perform, to please, to grow up too fast in front of millions. For a while, the spotlight that lit up his childhood nearly burned him out. Fame came early, but stability didn't. He later admitted to losing direction, feeling lost in the very industry that first gave him purpose. But Jason Bateman didn't disappear. He fought his way back, not with noise, but with focus and grit. Slowly, he rebuilt not just a career, but a reputation. As Michael Bluth in Arrested Development, he reintroduced himself as a comedic force. As Marty Byrde in Ozark, he shocked audiences with a dark, layered performance that proved his depth. And behind the scenes, he stepped into roles as director and producer, quietly shaping some of television's boldest stories. Now 56, Bateman is no longer just a former child star. He's a master craftsman, someone who fell, got back up, and rose higher than before. His journey is a reminder that some of the strongest men are the ones who once struggled in silence. From James Cooper to Marty Byrde, Jason Bateman didn't just grow up on screen. He grew into one of the most respected voices in the industry, and he earned every step. Melissa Gilbert played Laura Ingalls, the spirited daughter whose journey from child to young woman made Little House on the Prairie a generational treasure. At just 9 years old, Melissa didn't just act the part, she lived it. Born in 1964 and adopted into a showbiz family, her life seemed touched by fate. But it was her audition with Michael Landon that changed everything. Melissa once described walking into that room and feeling like he glowed, like he lit up from the inside. That spark grew into something profound. After losing her father at just 11, she found a new protector in Landon. Off-screen, he taught her about loyalty, family, and holding on to your roots, lessons she would cling to through every storm. Melissa's early career soared. She embodied Helen Keller, brought Anne Frank's pain to life, and became the face of countless TV films. But behind the camera, the price of fame began to surface. The 1990s hit her like a wave. Career slowdown, crushing tax debt, a failed marriage. She went from red carpets to court dates. One morning, staring at herself in the mirror, she didn't recognize the woman looking back. Then came the darker battles. In her late 30s, she spiraled into addiction, not the public kind, but the quiet, private kind. Painkillers and alcohol became her armor, her escape. There were nights she didn't know if she'd make it to morning, and no paparazzi were there to capture those moments, just silence. But Melissa fought. Slowly, painfully, she clawed her way back. She entered recovery, got clean, and owned her story. In 2010, a hidden back injury forced her into surgery after performing for months in agonizing pain. In 2015, she removed her breast implants, publicly rejecting the unrealistic pressures of Hollywood. She also revealed she lives with misophonia, a neurological disorder that turns everyday sounds into unbearable noise. Through it all, she refused to vanish. In 2016, she ran for Congress in Michigan, a bold, defiant step for someone rebuilding from the inside out. And more recently, she's found peace in the Catskills with her husband, actor Timothy Busfield. They host a podcast, grow vegetables, and run Modern Prairie, a brand devoted to empowering women over 50. At 60, Melissa Gilbert is no longer just half-pint. She's a survivor of the spotlight, a woman who's fallen hard and stood up even harder. Her story isn't just one of fame, it's one of endurance. She didn't just grow up on the prairie, she outlived the storms. Little House on the Prairie wasn't just a show, it was a feeling. A place where kindness mattered, where family meant everything, and where even the quietest characters left the loudest echoes. Though many of its stars have left this world, their stories still live on in us. Thank you for remembering them with us. If any of these faces touched your heart, leave a comment and let their memory shine a little longer.